Ramsay, this is the start of another top-deck Asian Overland. An experienced driver with 8 crossings under his belt, he's going through the familiar customs details in order to ferry the bus across the English Channel. The double-deckers leaped over on transport ferries whilst the passengers travelled down separately with the courier by train from London's Victoria Station. Top Deck use Bristol double-decker buses renowned for their mechanical reliability and professionally fitted out with bunks upstairs, hygienic cooking facilities, tape deck and PA systems. Before embarking on an overland, the engines are overhauled and all trips carry a comprehensive range of spare parts. Passengers quickly establish friendships on the ferry crossing and can take advantage of duty-free shopping outlets. Your fellow travellers will all be in the 18 to 35-year-old bracket and will probably be a mixture of Australasian, American, Malaysian and European nationalities. Naturally, they will all have the spirit of adventure and be adaptable to the flexibility a trip like this offers. At Calais, you'll be shown over the bus by your courier and will be allocated a bed and a locker. A collapsible bag is recommended so it can be stored away after unpacking your gear. Suitcases and camping packs are not permitted for obvious reasons. After everyone has settled in, we're off on a trip of a lifetime. With 20 our maximum, we often need 2 buses to cope with the demand. Sometimes we travel together, but usually we're a day or 2 apart, so we don't double up on camping or hotel facilities. We travel fairly quickly through Europe, so we can spend more time sightseeing in Asia, but we do have a night in Paris, en route to the Riviera. Everyone settles into the routine on board quickly. Snacks, tea or coffee, the in-flight service is great. We have no trouble negotiating the tunnels and bridges in the double-deckers, and some beautiful views are assured from the top deck, especially here on the Riviera. Camera buffs get plenty of opportunities for photographs. Monte Carlo now, and we make a special tour of the harbour and spend the evening at the casino. Then it's into Italy, climbing the autostrada with views of Genoa way below us. We travel easily along the European motorways at just under 80 kilometres per hour, the general European speed limit. We're making good time now, so there'll be plenty of sightseeing at our next port of call. No prize for guessing where. Yes, it's Venice. The enchanting city of islands and bridges gradually sinking with the passage of time. The canals and gondoliers, the very essence of Venice itself. Wandering around the streets, exploring the back alleys and sampling the Italian food is half the fun. The celebrated Venetian glass from the nearby island of Murano can be purchased at reasonable prices along with other souvenirs. The Rialto, Venice's most famous bridge, is just a short walk from St. Mark's Square and the Doge's Palace. This is the Bridge of Sighs, where in days gone by prisoners were led from the jail to the palace to face their execution. A romantic ride on a gondola through the city's myriad of waterways, or try some cappuccino and listen to the music in St. Mark's Square. Anyway, it's back to the bus now and on with the trip, heading down through Yugoslavia and into Greece. A seaside campsite at Kavala offers us a good chance to get rid of those winter locks of hair. Kavala is a picturesque Greek fishing town situated on the Aegean and offers excellent swimming conditions. Most nights we stay in campgrounds or hotel grounds, but when the weather and scenery is right, there's nothing to stop us free camping on deserted beaches like this. We continue along the adventure trail, heading east towards the Turkish border and Istanbul.
When you're arriving in Istanbul tonight, going straight to the campsite, there you'll be able to have a hot shower and a meal if you wish at the 24-hour cafe there. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, we'll get in early into Istanbul in the city, pick up a local guide, take you around the main sites, the Topkapi Palace, Blue Mosque, San Sophie, etc. And go down to Post Justan and check mail.
Here we are at Camping Londra, Istanbul. After a refreshing hot shower, it's advisable to get your washing done, especially when you're camped in the city for a few days. Facilities along the more remote sections to come aren't the best. It's then you'll appreciate your travelling hotel. Our crew ensures that the buses are kept as clean and hygienic as possible. Our travelling hotel gets a wash at every opportunity. Beside Sultan Ahmet Square, Istanbul's Blue Mosque stands as an imposing sentinel to the country's major religion, Islam. Close to 40 million Turks are of the Muslim faith, and these mosques or religious houses with their minarets are familiar sights throughout the country. The mosque was built at the beginning of the 17th century and is the only mosque in the world with 6 minarets. All others have 4. It gets its name, the Blue Mosque, from the 21,000 pieces of blue tiles with which the walls are covered. Visitors and worshippers alike are required to remove any footwear upon entry. Bare shoulders and shorts are definitely... Istanbul itself is built on the site of the ancient city of Byzantium. The Roman Emperor Constantine changed its name to Constantinople in the 4th century AD. The city flourished under the rule of the Ottoman Turks in the 15th and 16th centuries, and the Sultan's official residence, the Topkapi Palace, can still be visited, harem and all. Being the gateway to Asia, Istanbul gives to many people their first taste of Eastern culture, and roasted chestnuts can be tasty after walking through the city bazaars. We usually have 3 nights in the major cities. The first day we have a guided city tour on the bus. The following day we bring you into town again and you have a chance to follow up your own interests in detail. This stretch of water, the Bosphorus, is actually the dividing line between Europe and Asia, with the impressive Bosphorus suspension bridge providing the connection. The battlefield of Gallipoli. This is the memorial at Lone Pine where many of the gallant Anzacs fell during this historic campaign. At sunrise on the 25th of April 1915, here at Anzac Cove, the Australian and New Zealand forces stormed the beaches. You have plenty of time to wander over the battlefields where trenches and bunkers are clearly visible on the hillside. Faulty tactics, including complete lack of surprise, resulted in the eventual failure of the campaign. Commonwealth casualties were horrific. We cross the Dardanelles by ferry and visit the ancient city of Troy, made famous by the ancient Greek writer Homer in his history of the Iliad. It was here that the Trojan horse was wheeled and where, according to Homer, Achilles was shot in the heel during the Trojan Wars. Further down the Turkish coast, we come across the magnificent ruins of Ephesus, one of the greatest cities of antiquity and the former Roman capital of Asia. Along this colonnade, thousands cheered the visit of Antony and Cleopatra, and it was here that the elegant Ionic style of art originated. The amphitheatre is still in remarkably good condition, built by the Romans in the 2nd century AD, and it still demonstrates the acoustic qualities of its former glory. This original Ionian settlement changed hands many times, from the Persian king Cyrus, Alexander the Great, the kings of Pergamon, and onto the Romans. Ephesus also holds some Christian significance because St. Paul of Tarsus preached here, and nearby the Virgin Mary is said to have spent her last days. This part of the world is alive with history. The detailed commentaries by your courier will make your visit so much more rewarding. There's a public address system on board the bus so you can catch the points of interest while we're on the move. but at other times, such as now, wander through the ruins at your leisure. It's impossible to escape the feeling of history, to pass back in time, to imagine what life was really like here so many thousand years ago. Looks like snow, doesn't it? No, it's limestone deposits on the rocks here at Pamukkale. Having moved inland, we come to this, Turkey's most famous spa. Hot springs burst from the earth near the ruins and then tumble down the cliffs, which are left sparkling white. Feeling rejuvenated, it's back on the road to absorb some more of the superb Turkish coastline, untouched by commercial interests. And right beside the road, unguarded and almost completely intact, are Crusader castles dating from the Middle Ages. The Crusaders sailed from England to fight the holy wars against the Muslim infidels that had occupied the holy city of Jerusalem and other holy shrines throughout the Middle East. There's another castle on the island. Lunch is the best time of day for those who slept in and didn't have breakfast. Stopping at the local villages, we bought some cold meat, salad, fruit and fresh bread. Beautiful, all out of the food kitty, of course. The drivers have other things on their minds though. They're all experienced mechanics and keep the remarkably reliable Bristols in top condition. Just checking that the tyres are in good condition here. The scenery changes dramatically as we cross into Syria and along the desert road towards the capital Damascus. The Arab sector of our trip is just beginning. The history of Damascus extends back 5,000 years, one of the oldest continually inhabited cities on Earth. The population has swelled here dramatically since the 1967 wars with Israel. Sometimes you'll really appreciate the top deck kitchen and some good home-style cooking. We do our shopping here in the marketplace. We bring some bulk food with us from London, but this is supplemented with fresh fruits from the markets every day. Unfortunately, little remains of the old city of Damascus, but there are still many sites that were mentioned in the Bible. Nearby, you can see where St. Paul was held prisoner by the Romans. Legend has it that the Garden of Eden was located outside the city. The covered bazaar in Damascus is a veritable shopper's paradise, and it gives you a good chance to purchase a whole range of goods like materials, jewellery and copperware at reasonable prices. Be prepared to hassle with some of the shopkeepers though. At the end of the bazaar is a mosque. It was once a Christian church and still contains the tomb of John the Baptist. You'll appreciate your comfortable walking boots after all your sightseeing today, and there's no shortage of locals to polish them either. Travelling south into Jordan, our first place of interest is the ruins of Jerash. It's probably the best preserved Greco-Roman provincial city in the world. See the columns buried by hundreds of feet of desert sand. These, together with forums and theatres, were buried for centuries under the desert. Archaeologists only found the city in the early 1920s. Restoration work and diggings still continue to this day.
at the both sides of the main street. They were contained at one time about 520 Ionic and Corinthian columns. Over here,
Local guides can be arranged by the courier to give more in-depth information at historical sites.
but when you look
The holiest of all cities, Jerusalem. Looking down on the ancient walled city from the Mount of Olives. A city revered by millions of Christians, Arabs and Jews alike. The Golden Dome is the dome of the Rock Mosque. With its elaborate symmetrical designs of coloured tiles, it makes an awe-inspiring sight. After Mecca, it is the holiest place on earth for the Muslims. It was from this site that Muhammad the Prophet ascended into heaven on his white steed. The Western or Wailing Wall is held close to the hearts of all Jewish people. It's fascinating to see them praying against the wall, rocking back and forwards with religious fervour and reading from the Torah, their holy book. This wall is the only remaining part of the ancient temple of King Solomon. It's incredible to think that this temple was 1,000 years old when Jesus walked these very streets. This is the old city of Jerusalem. The Jews and Arabs appear to live and work here in apparent peace. It's easy to forget that so many wars have been fought over the city and the problems caused by thousands of homeless Palestinians just across Israel's border ensures that Jerusalem's future is still not certain. We travel into Jerusalem on local transport and stay in hotels in the new city. We can't bring the buses any further than the border at the Jordan River. Top Deck is one of the very few companies that can take you into this part of the world, so deep into the Middle East in this off-the-beaten-track itinerary. The courier arranges all your visas en route. Try some of the local falafels for a tasty snack, and the fresh juices of the Jaffa oranges is available from many stores in the old city. Returning to our double-decker, we visit the Dead Sea. Being 1,200 feet below sea level, it has some fascinating qualities. That is, it is so dense and salty that you float high in the water. I said float, not walk. Back on the bus and heading towards southern Jordan and the Gulf of Aqaba. It's on those long desert roads you'll really appreciate your travelling hotel. Stretch out and relax. In the distance here, Wadi Rum, the desert domain of Lawrence of Arabia. The sunsets in the Jordan deserts are sights to behold. But here at night it gets quite cold, so we collect old tyres for campfires. A welcome rendezvous with our other bus. A great night, swapping stories about the trip so far. Oil flows freely in Arab countries and there's no talk of shortages or energy conservation in these areas, and this chap here bears no resemblance to your local garage attendant either. On the Red Sea at Aqaba, everyone takes advantage of the glorious beach and snorkeling is popular in the coral-rich waters. A visit to the hidden city of Petra, the rose-red city, half as old as time, remains one of the most unforgettable experiences of the Overland. The The spectacular monuments carved out of solid rock over 2,000 years old make Petra one of the world's great archaeological wonders. The site is believed to have been inhabited as long as 12,000 years ago, but the city of Petra was built by the Nabateans around 300 BC. Temples, palaces, tombs and theatres are everywhere, hewn out of the mountainside. The Romans and Crusaders held control of the city at different stages, but it wasn't until early last century, when a young Swiss explorer rediscovered the lost city, that Petra was given back to the world. Petra is accessible on horseback or on foot, but the experience of wandering down the narrow passageways and confronting the Kazne, or treasury building, is a real highlight of the trip. Water resources in the area are naturally enough limited, and it's essential that everyone be aware of the need to conserve water at all times. The buses carry a 40-gallon water tank, and on overlands the water is sterilised or boiled before use, particularly for drinking purposes. Back in Amman, the driver and courier are having an important conference. A meeting of Arab leaders in Baghdad has closed the Iraqi borders, and it now becomes apparent that a new course will have to be taken. With the flexibility that Top Deck offers, the itinerary is altered to include additional sightseeing elsewhere.
It's all carved out on the hewn out of the rock by nature, and then these guys are Christians been hiding from
So after travelling across through Europe, down the Turkish coast and into Syria and Jordan, our original course to Iraq and up through southern Iran has to be changed because of unforeseen troubles in Baghdad. An alternative route was decided by the crew to travel north back through Syria and into eastern Turkey, visiting Goremy and entering Iran across its northern borders. To save time, meals can be prepared on the run if necessary. Here, with distant horizons of sand and clay around us, the smells from the top deck kitchen become an anticipated invitation to enjoy a good, wholesome meal. Heading north again, we travel an alternative route through Syria and enter eastern Turkey. Within a few days' drive from the border, we find ourselves engulfed in an eerie, lunar-like landscape. This is Goremy in the Cappadocia region of central eastern Turkey. The earth in this area is volcanic, and erosion has caused the fragile tough stone to take on strange shapes. After the spreading of Christianity, these rocks were hollowed out to become monasteries, churches and houses. In the 7th century, when Arab invaders swept west across Turkey, the inhabitants found a need in this area to band together. Rather than build houses, they found it much easier to hollow out shelters in the soft rock. Exploring these old hideaways becomes an adventure all of its own and a lot of fun. Although some may have to try a little harder if they want to reach those higher inlets. Since these people were very religious, underground chapels were often built, and eventually these artificial grottos became decorated with Bible scenes. A number of underground cities still exist which once housed large numbers of people. These were connected by a network of tunnels. In the hills outside Goramy, a group of Turkish men give an impromptu performance of Swan Lake. No, not really, but it is an excellent example of their folklore. The local people live simple existences by our standards, but they seem to get a lot of enjoyment out of singing and dancing, especially when the onlookers show some interest. As we approach the border with Iran, the Soviet Union is only a matter of 50 kilometres away, and the beginning of the Caucasian mountains with a liberal layer of snow can easily be identified. This is the Kurds district of Turkey, a rebellious tribe of Turks who reject the control of the Turkish government. In recent times, the Russians have exerted more influence in this area in an attempt to control these outlaws. Mount Ararat, rising over 14,000 feet, is a familiar landmark at the border between Turkey and Iran. Ruins of Noah's Ark have been found on the side of the mountain. Iran's bustling capital, Tehran, boasts an impressive monument to commemorate the 2500th anniversary of the Persian Empire. After the overthrow of the Shah in February 1979, the country became an Islamic republic based on the fundamental teachings of the Quran. The revolution installed the religious leader Ayatollah Khomeini as the most powerful force in the land, a man bent on reversing Iran's industrial climb into the 1980s. Crossing the mountains towards the Caspian, and snowballs are flying everywhere. The campsite at Mashhad was a good chance to get that letter off to the folks at home. It was getting very cold at night here. We were very grateful that we didn't have to pitch tents at night. The gas heaters on board kept us comfortable too. Our first port of call in Afghanistan is Herat. Afghani boots and sandals can be made to measure by the local craftsmen. The Afghani people are a very proud and dignified race and make interesting character studies for the photogenically minded. The country's history dates back to before the time of Alexander the Great, and in later centuries came under the role of the legendary Genghis Khan. The Mongol traits in the people are easily discerned today. See the women with their veils completely covering their faces. These are called shadaris. Women rarely appear in public, and when they do, they are always completely covered like this. The country is extremely poor and underdeveloped, where the average annual per capita income only reaches $80 and the average life expectancy 40 years. In fact, only 5% of the population can read or write. It's by far the most backward country in Asia. Never having been colonized, Western civilization has completely passed this country by. For the boys at home with their hotted-up cars, there's a lot they can learn here on how to decorate their pride and joy. The local form of transport is the tonga, with gaily decorated horses drawing them. Although they traditionally dress in whites and browns, the objects around them abound in colour. And this is your local dry cleaners. Oh, girls, keep your lacy negligées out of sight. Their specialties are limited. The silverware is beautifully handcrafted and all at reasonable prices. And you must try some of the local bread. Quite safe to eat and well worth the effort. You couldn't call these five-star restaurants, but they're very popular with the locals, and the kebabs are good snacks between meals. Chai or black tea is the universal drink. Just outside Kandahar, the ruins of a caravanserai remind the traveller of bygone days, when these square mud-walled sanctuaries were used as refuges for passing traders. James A. Michener's book Caravans discusses them in detail and serves as good introductory reading for Afghanistan. Located at an altitude of 6,000 feet, the capital, Kabul, is set at the base of the beautiful Hindu Kush Mountains. The city is an incredible mosaic of grey-brown mud houses. A communist-inspired coup in April 1978 brought a Marxist government to power, but somehow the country's new red flag is incongruous in an atmosphere heavy with centuries of Islam. The Kabul River meanders through the heart of the city with two craggy ranges on either side, where we find the local women busy with their daily washing. Hey, cut it out. Can't you see I'm trying to get my horns on television?
Meh.
These are the famous Tata trucks, a standard yet highly decorated form of transportation carrying everything from garbage to furniture and even people. Just outside Kabul is Asia's oldest animal market. For those brave enough to bear the early morning temperatures, a whole range of camels, goats, donkeys and buffaloes can be seen. Prospective buyers are reminded that there's no room on the bus though. This particular morning, the main produce on sale was water buffalo. Here we see the cattle yards where the local cattlemen sort their animals out for prospective buyers. And of course the scene wouldn't be right without the local chai man. To many people, Afghanistan typifies the real overland. That is, being able to view people in their natural habitat. This market in Kabul offers a kaleidoscope of different colours, sounds and sights. The intrusion of thousands of Russian advisors has enraged the fiercely independent Afghani people, and rebel Muslims have voiced their disapproval with several uprisings.
That's good.
Afghani coats, jumpers, socks and belts can all be purchased from the traders, especially round Chicken Street. Bidding farewell to Kabul and Afghanistan, it's back on the reliable Bristol double-decker heading east down the breathtaking Kabul Gorge and on to Pakistan. Entering Pakistan, we drive over history's most famous pass, the Khyber. Your mind drifts back in history to the times of the Persians, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, and more recently, the British, who all fought battles to control this strategic point. This rugged mountain area is inhabited by the equally inhospitable Pushtun tribesmen, and we are only allowed to cross the pass in daylight hours. Having your photo taken beside the entrance to the Khyber Rifles Regiment is a must for most of the passengers. The Khyber Rifles Fort was built by the British last century during the Anglo-Afghan Wars and has since passed on to the Pakistanis. We found the renowned Khyber Rifle soldiers a little more friendly than expected. Was actually to celebrate a forthcoming marriage for one of the soldiers, and the dance imitates the wedding ceremony. This is the bride. Beautiful, isn't she? Soon we'll be continuing our journey across the plains of Pakistan and eventually into India, through Rawalpindi, Peshawar and Lahore, then to our first port of call in India. Amritsar is in the Punjab region of India and is the holy city of the Sikh religion. The magnificent golden temple is most sacred to the Sikhs and is a superb shrine of intricately carved marble and gold leaf, glittering in an expanse of water. We have now entered the third major cultural change of our trip, the steaming masses of India, the ever-strong Hindu faith with all its different sects. After Kabul, we travelled over the Khyber Pass and into Pakistan, through Rawalpindi and Lahore, and onto our first stop in India, Amritsar. We now move north to Jammu in the state of Kashmir, where we leave the double-decker and board local transport for the journey to Srinagar in the Happy Valley. Kashmir is perhaps the most scenic spot in India. The The majority of the population are Muslim, and this has led to many religious conflicts and disturbances with its Hindu rulers. As a result, about 1/3 of India's army is stationed in Kashmir. Looking down on the beautiful Kashmir Valley is a memorable experience, with the matchbox-like villages in perfect harmony with the surroundings. The valley settles at an altitude of 5,000 feet. It's now autumn, but during the summer, green growth is abundant across the valley, reminiscent of some areas of England, which is probably why the British decided on this valley for their holiday retreat. In Srinagar, the capital, we stay in Victorian houseboats on Lake Dal, where top deck pay the basic costs. Once the dream gardens of the Mughal emperors, Srinagar became a popular resort area in British colonial times last century, and the interiors of the boats still retain that unmistakable British influence. Truly a paradise, where our 4 days here are a welcome break to enjoy the luxury and pleasures of days gone by, and to investigate in more detail the history and development of one of the oldest holiday resorts in the world. There are various activities you can involve yourself in, from snow skiing, horse riding, boating, or just mingling with the local people, enjoying the wares and pleasures they've perfected over centuries of catering for the desires of foreign visitors. The hand-woven Kashmiri carpets are world famous, with wide selections available, while paper mache products and intricate wood carvings are other local industries. This craftsman has been working on this piece for nearly a year. Goods are ferried across the lake on these sharas or canoes, and traders come right up to your floating verandas to negotiate business. It's certainly a very relaxed and interesting lifestyle. Servants are even provided in the houseboats to look after your every whim and desire. An interesting concept, I must admit. At the snap of fingers, the shop comes to you, not you go to the shop. That's what I call style. An authentic Kashmiri banquet and dancing evening can be arranged by the courier. The meal usually consists of some form of curried meat and rice. Streisand, but quite entertaining just the same. As our time in Srinagar comes to an end, we say goodbye to our house servant and commence the journey back to the bus. Truly one of the highlights of our trip, and one you shall never forget. Shopping for fresh fruit and vegetables is an ongoing function throughout the duration of the trip. The cooks obtain food kitty money from the courier and usually buy enough food for 2 to 3 days at a time. Sign language is usually the common form of communication with the local shopkeepers to establish prices and quantities. New Delhi, the capital of the largest democracy in the world. India has a population of 630 million, a majority of them Hindus, speaking a language of over 850 dialects. The spacious design of New Delhi, laid out by the British in the 1920s, contrasts greatly to the streets and slums in the old part of the city. Standing here in Connaught Square, it's difficult to relate this scene to the countless millions of Indians which we so readily identify with, yet just half a mile from here, those impressions will be more than fulfilled. Driving on Indian roads can be a harrowing experience at the best of times. Just ask your top deck driver. Nevertheless, you'll have more than enough time to indulge and add yet another story to the countless millions already told by those who have passed through here in recent years. Another legacy of British colonial days is the gentleman's game of cricket. When they left the Indian subcontinent in 1947, the game stayed behind. The backdrop here is Delhi's famous Red Fort, built in 1639 from thick red sandstone and the former home of the Peacock Throne. At night you can see the sound and light show here, depicting the intriguing history of this fort. After a day's sightseeing, the campsite bar proves a popular meeting place where we gather and exchange stories and talk of things to come, or just relax and enjoy the local brews. Our campsite in Delhi lies on the border between Old and New Delhi and provides first-class facilities with hot showers, washrooms, restaurant and bars, a welcome chance to catch up on all those domestic chores that have got left behind. As you can imagine, orange and white double-deckers are really fair sights in Indian country towns and usually attract a fair bit of attention. Moving on further south now towards Agra. Early morning starts overcome normal congestions on the roads, while during the day playing cards is another advantage of this self-contained style of travel. About 200 kilometres northeast of Delhi and just outside Agra is Akbar's tomb. The burial place of the former Mughal emperor is set in a 150-acre animal sanctuary. In the distance here we capture our first glimpse of India's famous Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal was built by Emperor Shah Jahan in the early 17th century as a mausoleum for Queen Mumtaz Mahal, who died giving birth to her 14th child. Viewed from such close quarters, it becomes a sight greater than your expectations. Travelling towards Varanasi on the Ganges Plain is some of the most densely populated areas of the country. Roads are cluttered with all types of vehicles, from rickshaw, ox cart, donkeys and bicycles, and of course, masses of people. In Varanasi, or Benares as it used to be called, the Hindus can be seen praying at their houses of worship. The smell of burning oil and incense pervades continuously throughout the temples. The architecture and design of these temples is an interest all of its own. The intricate craftsmanship involved and the glow of the red sandstock blocks so popular in this area on buildings of such majestic importance. Life wasn't meant to be easy, but the sacred cows know that's not true. Most are in lot better condition than the people. For a couple of rupees, the snake charmers can turn on a convincing show for the interested tourists. adventurous onlooker can become more actively involved in the proceedings, while a rather reluctant mongoose brought down the final curtain on the act.
Come on, mongoose. Here's my big photo.
An early morning boat ride down the holy Ganges River is an unforgettable experience. For thousands of years, Hindu pilgrims have come here to cleanse themselves of their sins in the sacred water of the Ganges. Every Hindu wishes to be cremated here, and the funeral pyres can be seen on the water's edge. The remains of the bodies are thrown in the river. Prayer, meditation and the cleansing rites are conducted along the waterfront. And of course the sacred cow, most fortunate of all Indian animals. It may not have any sins to cleanse, but a bit of a cool-off in the water from the hot Indian sun is more to their liking. Crossing the long pontoon bridge, we now enter Khajuraho, the last of our major ports of call in India, before heading north into the Himalayas and the Nepalese border. A now relatively deserted Indian city where we visit the temples famous for their erotic carvings and sample the last of true Indian curries. British colonial influence still stands strong in some parts of the city. We are now crossing into Nepal and our journey is drawing to an end. Passports are collected for the last time, so visa information can be checked by the Nepalese officials. Border crossings involve a lot of red tape and can be very time-consuming. Passengers are expected to take this in the right spirit. Anyway, soon we're off on the road again. The Nepalese countryside contrasts greatly to that of India, and noticeably more Chinese influence in the people themselves. Approaching Pokhara, we decided safer to use the river crossing than this bridge, which wasn't really designed for heavy double-decker buses, and the powerful Bristol has no trouble in forging through the water, up and out the other side. Here we have our last rendezvous with the other bus before moving on to Kathmandu. The setting here at Pokhara is magnificent for just such an occasion, lying at the foothills of the majestic snow-capped Himalayas. Lush green vegetation are familiar sights as we climb into the Kathmandu Valley with that ever-present white skyline in the background. Kathmandu is the capital of the Kingdom of Nepal and has been likened to the Florence of Asia. Durbar Square is the centre of downtown Kathmandu, beside the old royal palace and close to the cheap hotels and ethnic markets. The flourishing of art and architecture is amply demonstrated in the temples and shrines, in a land where Hinduism and Buddhism peacefully coexist. Buddhist temples are usually in the pagoda style, with central stupas and countless prayer wheels. This is actually the monkey temple in Kathmandu. It is claimed by the Nepalese that Buddha was born in southern Nepal around 560 BC. It is also here that our trip terminates, 18,000 kilometres and 10 weeks after the Dover to Calais crossing on our first day out of London. So that's our Asian Overlander, an unforgettable experience through the world's most unforgettable countries. Our itinerary takes you to cities and famous sites as well as off the beaten track. The travelling hotel is the most comfortable and practical vehicle on what could otherwise be a long and arduous journey, and only on top deck will you travel with people of your own age and background.
Well, I guess that's it. Kathmandu. Huh. I won't forget this place.
The management and staff of Top Deck Travel would like to thank you very, very much for viewing this film. For further information on our Overland tours, contact Top Deck or your nearest travel agent. Thank you very, very much indeed.